Hello, this is Christopher Kemedy and welcome to the Visual Effects Compositing course. We're going to be turning this metal bar into something that genuinely fits in this trapdoor space up here. So to do that, we'll select the ceiling layer and edit it in Cinema 4D. So we need to shrink this down, but rather than grabbing the orange dot at the end and shrinking it that way, I need to shrink the whole thing. So I'll go to the Scale tool here and then just scale it down like that. And to see how this is working, we need to go back to After Effects. I'll just save, go to After Effects, and then we need to do some masking. I'll switch this to Software Draft. Then we can see how that's going to look there. You can see, if I zoom in, you can see that the end of the bar is going to be sticking out over the top here, and that's no good. That's not what we want. So before I do anything else, I'll go back to Cinema 4D and I'm just going to use the Move tool to slide that up, save, back in After Effects. I can see now that the end will be obscured, and to check that I'll draw a mask. So I select the pen tool, make sure the ceiling layer is selected, and then draw a simple mask around here. I have the resolution set to half, so I'll just turn that to full. And you can see now that does look as though it's more obscured, but the problem is that the bar is just disappearing unrealistically down here. We need to see it embedded into the back of the space here. So let's go back to Cinema 4D, and then I'm going to move this up, and I'll just hit render to check how that's looking. You can see how it's moved up in the space there. So I'll click on it, move it up, and maybe hit the green arrow here and move it that way a little. Render, that's looking better. So now I save, go to After Effects, and you can see that's much more the effect we want. If I just click Mask Visibility here to get rid of that mask, it now looks as though the bar is coming across from that side and disappearing over here. I would need to refine that mask a little to make it work. So I'll just increase the mask visibility, move this mask point over just a fraction, click off, and there, that's looking good. So I'll save, go back to Cinema 4D, and now to make this look like a grill or a grid, we need to duplicate this. So I select the cylinder, then I just go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. And while that second cylinder is selected, I just use the Move tool to move this across like that. So we've got two. And then I can just paste again, move again, and I repeat this until I've got enough bars. Now just looking at that, I'm thinking that this first one is probably too close to the edge. So before I do any more, I'm going to check that. I'll save, go back to After Effects. When I look at that, that's actually not too bad. I'm quite happy with that. So I'll keep going in Cinema 4D. Paste again. Move that over. And we're going to group all these cylinders so that we can move them as one, which makes it much easier when it comes to aligning this whole grid. Click on cylinder 6, then shift click on the cylinder down at the bottom so that we've got everything selected, and then right click on that and choose Group Objects. It now says null, and inside that null you can see our last cylinders, and that means that if I move one, they move as one. I'll just play through this to see if that looks like it's staying in the right place. It's not by this point, but that's okay, because at the 50 frame mark we're going to have the explosion and it's going to start falling away then. So long as it looks right up to here, I'll just save, and back in After Effects, let's check. This looks good, but we want to see how it looks 2 seconds in, so I'm going to keyframe the mask, move to the 2-second point, and then adjust the mask accordingly. Of course, we'll need to do the masking all the way through the shot, but at this point I really just want to see how it's looking here. You can see already that the positioning of those bars isn't ideal because the ends seem to be creeping in there. So that just doesn't look right there. So we'll save, go back to Cinema 4D and turn on the track solid and position this according to the track solid. So there we go. We're now in line with the track solid, switch that off, and that's all very well, but of course it's not achieving that result we want where the bars are embedded in the back wall there. So we've used this to get a good initial lineup, but we now need to do some work in Cinema 4D, and I think what we'll do is shrink this a little. So I've selected the scale tool. I'm just going to scale it down so it's in the right place roughly. Now I'll use the move tool to line it up with that back edge there. Now when I save, go back to After Effects, it should look as though it's in the right place. That's perfect. Check at the 2-second mark, and that's still working apart from these not extending far enough. So all I need to do is go into Cinema 4D, select the scale tool, and I'm just going to scale this along the green axis like that, and then just reposition ever so slightly back in After Effects. You can see how that works. Now looking at that as well, I may want to space these out more so that there's no space at the side. I'm going to go back to Cinema 4D, open up my null, and just select the cylinders individually to move them across on this red axis now that all the other work has been done, just to space them out a little more evenly. And this sort of work only takes a few seconds once the bulk of the work has been done. Now when I save and go back, you can see that looks a little more like what we want. Of course this hasn't been textured yet, so it doesn't look realistic, and when it falls out we're going to have a completely different effect altogether. But for now that's working quite well.